Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War Stakeout event in which Kane is added to the game. Of course, this video getting out a little bit later than normal, but as is tradition, we shall still go over it, and there's still quite a few things that we can mention, as well as some things that we normally wouldn't be able to cover in a weekly video if we were to cover it earlier in the week. For one, Summer Imp is leaving the drop table. This is something we kind of already knew. For any of you that don't know, the Imps run from every 2 months. You can still find them in Soulforge randomly, but as far as finding them in keys, they only run specifically every 2 months. And Summer Imp was from June and July, then it's going to be going into Autumn Imp, will be the one that will be available tomorrow in the drop table for the next 2 months, and that one goes from August to September. Then it goes Spooky Imp, which goes from October to November. Then it goes the Winter Imp, which is from December to January. Then Imp of Love, which goes from February to March. And then finally in April to May, we have ourselves the Spring Imp, and then it cycles back around to the Summer Imp and continues. But you can still get them in Soulforge whenever if they happen to pop up on the Legend rotation. So technically they're not exclusive only to that time, but as far as dropped keys table is concerned, they are. They're not really too relevant, but for completionist purposes, if you're looking for all of them, Autumn Imp will be available tomorrow. So if you want to go open some keys for that, not really worth going out of your way for, because we have a Mythic next Friday, so might as well go for that instead. And if you want to get Autumn Imp passively, you'll just get it as you try getting it. But anyways, Kane, useless troop, does come in with pretty good arcanes though, so stock up on those. But as far as the troop itself, it's under that category of it tries to hard counter something and then is not good enough to do that, so it just becomes completely useless tier of troops. This is supposed to counter undead, however, it is really bad at countering undead, so it's going to never be used. Has some damage to some undead, has a bit of boost ratio to it, and has 50% chance independently to curse and silence them, meaning that you'll have a 50% chance to curse and a 50% chance to silence, which means you could both curse and silence, you could do one or the other, or you could do neither, since they both will roll independently of each other. It also gets to do double damage to undead, which is to be expected from anything that's like an anti to a certain type, and it has a 50% chance to ignore their armor, so has a little bit of capability to actually kill undead, but overall is going to be completely useless compared to pretty much the average troop that can do it. So you're never really going to go out of your way to use this troop, and is just going to remain as dead content, unfortunately. Also, it is of a epic rarity, so it is going to cost you a little bit more to even trait this guy compared to just going other options. So overall, definitely worth obviously just getting for some trait stones and upgrading for kingdoms, but never actually using the troops. So do be mindful of that. So of course this week we did end up getting 10% to all humans and 10% to all rogues, which helped a little bit with the human event that we had going on. This was obviously completely useless as it normally is. The extra 40 souls, soul farming teams do that just so much better. However, I believe that 40 souls does count towards the objective, but you can get it done in a single battle for the campaign, so that didn't really matter. Campaign will, as normal, be covered in a separate video that we'll be doing very, very soon, TM. But one nice thing about the campaigns is, unlike the normal weekly events, these you can do whenever. So like 5 weeks from now, you can still do these. While they're most optimal to do the week of course, we already did them on Monday. But even though we you can still do them technically whenever, as long as you get them done before the end of the event. You'll still be able to go claim all of the loot. So do be mindful of that in that regard. Anyways, as far as chest key drop table, similar to many things this week, it was pointless. It is a Ghulvania drop table. There are like a few higher rarity things that you might want to go for, but given how much low rarity useless stuff is in here, it's probably worth skipping. No, Ghulvania has a lot of true damage based things, but other kingdoms kind of do it better, or even weapons. Like it has Grave Knight. Where on earth is Grave Knight in here? But where's Grave Knight? There it is. Grave Knight has like its armor tier with a little bit of damage, but obviously there's like a billion different armor tier weapons that do that exponentially better. There's things like Crimson Bat with its constant 2 times damage and potentially even 4 times, but Divines aren't meta enough for this to really be relevant, and it just isn't that good compared to like Web Spinner constantly doing 3 times against almost everything, so it's kind of fallen off since then. Draculus is even more useless than Crimson Bat, even though it's higher rarity, and the only thing really good here would then be the Great King, but of course it is a mythic, so actually obtaining it's going to be pretty hard. But Great King and Umbra Wolf, probably the only 2 you might want to hunt down for. Umbra Wolf you only need 1 copy of, however it is the only legend in the game that has a perpetual storm. Everything else that has it is either a hero class or a mythic, so he's a bit of an outlier in that he is a legend that has it, so kind of interesting in that regard. And other than that, Great King is by far the most useful thing. However, it is a mythic, so the chance of getting it is very unlikely, and even if you get a mythic, it will be either Draculus or the Great King, so there's not even of any guarantee if you get a mythic that'll be this. However, he has one of the best true damage spells in the entire game while having some decent board control, mana accumulation, and a bunch of disables that are very useful. His traits are pretty much useless, but as far as his ability, it is very solid and among one of the better overall in the entire game. It's also particularly good as a anti to pure color teams, so you can end up doing that to get some pretty good value if the enemy has 3 or 4 of the exact same color onto your team, especially if it's one that's advantageous to take the mana from. You do sometimes have to prioritize going for if you want to go for the better board control or if you want to go for the better damage, but overall it's a pretty solid troop. But it is a mythic, so for the most part probably just worth skipping since the rest of the drop table is just so bad. So that's pretty much event keys this week, so nothing much to worry about there. As far as our guild related event, we still have the Riddles in the Dark. This was a bit of a cycle one, and unlike most of them, it actually is better to go for the highest rarity one. The easiest way to do this is to go and of course make sure you're set to the event medals, and I'll remind you if you're not set to the event medals, though it will not remind you if you're using a if you're using this for like a non-event. If you like go into explore and use it, it won't tell you, oh, you're still using the event medals. But if you go into this game mode and you're not using them, it'll be like, hey, you should probably go set these medals because it'll help you a lot. And it definitely will this week. I did not realize the amount of exponential gain Tesla actually gets from these things, because it does actually stack for her. She will normally one-shot, and if you bought to tier 4, she definitely will have enough. On tier 3, it seems kind of iffy on if she will or will not, but as you can see, she does one-shot, and that makes it pretty easy. So really, you could just do literally anything with just a Tesla, kill them out, and you'll pretty much be good to go. As far as this event is concerned, and you do always want to go for the highest rarity here. So right here we're highest level. You always want to go for highest rarity, but this time it actually matters that you go for highest level. It will manipulate your points slightly. So right here we'd want to go for the 160, and assuming there's not a higher one after, we would then want to go for a 150, and then it'll eventually bring us to the mythic Gray King, and then we just kill that since it's the only battle we have, and then it repeats back over itself. But a pretty straightforward event, but it is one where going and prioritizing the higher level ones are actually beneficial compared to normal. Anyways, we do have a bounty hunter still going on, something we normally wouldn't be able to directly go over, but of course we still have that going on for the rest of the day. Bounty hunter notoriously has some pretty good loots, and it is even pretty good loot. Even if you don't spend a single gem on it, you can still get pretty far into them, though of course if you do max it out all the way, you will be able to get some major orbs chances, and it's actually the most orbs you can obtain in such a short duration of time, because you have 2 major orbs, you have 4 minor orbs, and you have 2 Volkeys, both which have a chance of giving you orbs, on top of the fact that you can also make leaderboard if you happen to go far enough. So there are a lot of opportunities for orbs within Bounty Hunter, and is one of the best ways to slowly chip up to getting yourself a Zugoff eventually if you still do not have a Zugoff, as he requires a lot of minor and major blues in order to craft power orbs in order to craft him, since he requires 8 power orbs, and realistically, unless you're spending an absurd amount of gems on leaderboards, you're going to be doing them almost entirely out of blue and major blues, so anything that you get more towards that will be closer to Zugoff if you don't already have it. But anyways, as far as this, a little bit of annoying 20 battle, actually probably one of the harder Bounty Hunters we've had in a very long time. The team that we ended up going with was Werewolf, Tigraki Warrior, Rift Lynx, and the captain for the week, which is the Dread Steed. But this thing's going to be completely useless after the fact. As far as Dread Steed, it is a Death Mark an enemy, and it creates 6 purple gems boosted by Death Marked enemies. It does have a % chance that it'll obviously just randomly get a kill. However, it is so ridiculously inconsistent that you should never depend on it for a kill. If you happen to get a kill on it, nice. However, for the most part, it is just way, way too inconsistent to either bother depending on. But right here, we did go and replace out Tigraki Warrior as, or it's not Tigraki Warrior, you'd never replace out Tigraki Warrior, I mean Excavator. We ended up replacing out. The main reason for this is if you find a Valraven, you can use this to move it to the back. The other reason is you can go and kill something out. So right here, depending on how high your magic is, and mine is high enough that it does work, you can do Tigraki Warrior into doing the Rift Lynx, and this will be enough to kill. And off your red mana accumulation, you can feed into that, and the purple mana accumulation also gets to feed into that. So if we want to go and Death Mark this, for example, and hope it randomly kills, that you probably should have done on first slot. But again, the chance of Death Mark actually killing, very unlikely. But still, you generally want to do it on the frontline tank there and just kill these out with Tigraki into Rift, and hope that that just randomly dies to Death Mark is ideally what will happen in these battles. But nice combo here. We just go for that, go for the other poke, and it should kill most of the time. Again, it does depend on what your stats are, and it does depend also on how much armor Devoted has given, because of course Tigraki does have an armor boost ratio at 3-to-1 based on how much armor they have. So you do get a bit of a boost every single time she ends up casting, which can be of course beneficial to you, because that will increase your damage. It kind of seems weird that the enemy gaining more durability will actually make you do more overall damage, but that is the case, since you're doing true damage and you completely ignore their armor and boost ratio off it, so kind of interesting how that ends up panning out. But I kind of want to take a red here. However, even if it surges, do we have +1 red right now? Yes, we do. Let me actually go for it, because if it surges, we gain full mana. Unfortunately, it does not surge, so we are a little bit short, meaning we will not be able to secure the kill right here. Skull is kind of pointless to go for. It's actually beneficial not to go for skulls because of the boost ratio thing. So I'm just going to take something off the top. We'll probably try getting purple here for the Rift Lynx. Hope this thing randomly dies out of Death Mark, because why not? And who knows? Maybe it will. Go. That turn actually had no chance of dying, but this following turn, it has the chance that it shall die. And we'll go for Tigraki. I deliberately don't want to take skulls in order to keep... Oh, whoops. Oh, never mind. That was still an extra turn. But I deliberately keep his armor up so that we can hit more with Tigraki. So that is now in one-shot range, and now we can go kill it. So let's do all these reds. As normal, it will not want to die to Death Mark, and generally will not. And then we just kill it out with true damage. That's pretty much all you have to do with Bounty Hunter. Do have to be really careful with Mercy, though. It is pretty high priority to kill first, unless there's Valraven, in which case you want to kill the Valraven first. But yeah, Mercy is very, very annoying. It has Cleanse, it has a Empower Yellow, or Purple to Yellow, and that Purple to Yellow can feed into Valraven. The absolute worst scenario you will ever see here is Valraven replaces the Devoted, and then you have to deal with Mercy, because not only will there not be a yellow that you can shift it to be blocked by, but it will also be in a safe position, unlike first slot, where it won't be able to be as killed as easily, like with Skulls or anything else. But normally you would kill it with true damage anyways. But yeah, it's probably one of the easier ones to lose a Valraven on. We were luckily able to do it without losing a single one, though we did have a Valraven cast, because it did get full mana pretty much out of nowhere instantly, because of course Mercy, which is going to be happening probably quite a bit. But you can kind of avoid it a little bit. Just pay a lot of attention to the purple to yellow convert on the starting board, and you should for the most part be fine. And just use Rift Lynx if you can to move it below the Devoted if it doesn't replace out Devoted. And that's pretty much the full game plan for that. Anyways, next thing, not really much to go over for weekly events because they have all happened. So, of course, we'll be going over the next week's ones on Monday. But most relevant thing that you can kind of know now is, no, you can kind of see what some of them are here as well, since, you know, they kind of show themselves. But this Friday, of course, is a new Mythic, so do make sure to save some keys for that. Last I saw, it is a pretty bad Mythic. However, it is still a Mythic nonetheless, and if you have more than half the Mythics in the game, it is generally worth going for any new Mythic, even if it is 100% useless and never usable, simply because having a 100% chance to gain a Mythic you don't have is much better than gaining a copy of a Mythic that you already have. So generally, once you have a certain threshold of number of Mythics, you tend to always go for the new ones regardless, just because it guarantees you something you don't have. Anyways, which of course helps with Kingdom upgrading. As far as Soulforge, like many things this week, it was completely useless. There's pretty much not a single thing, at least as far as troops. There's actually some weapons that are you might want to consider picking up if you haven't already, just as a reminder. But as far as troops, Vashtagan maybe, it's pretty bad, but it does have one of the better curses in the game, where it gets to curse every single time you take brown. This works really good in synergies where you're using it with Iron Gut, because you're normally spamming a lot of brown, so you can bury every brown off your hero, you can do a curse off of this. There's a lot of options that you can kind of combine together. There's even Basilisk, which stuns on brown. So there's a lot of synergy that you can do with this in brown-oriented teams, and it does have Impervious, so it gets to protect it, and some spell reduction, but overall, its ability is still kind of clunky. Even the Black Beast has a better functioning one, because they never bothered reworking it. It's weird interaction that it has with like barrier and stuff like that. I'm not sure why to this day they still haven't done it, even though they did it for Black Beast. And there are many instances where this thing is quite literally weaker than an ultra rare, the Black Beast ultra rare. But it does have some pretty good traits set up, and for that almost redeems it completely. If you're using this, you're almost entirely using it for its traits and not its ability, at least until they revamp it, whenever they finally do that, if they are ever going to do that. But his traits are some of the most solid in the entire game, or among some of them. So it's definitely a good utility curse in the game. Obviously, when we get the new Mythic off of campaigns, it's going to have a pretty big curse. This might get used a little bit less, however, if I'm not mistaken... oh, no, never mind. The campaign one, I believe, does have Impervious. I think they say it can't keep it protected, but no, actually, I believe it can. So, yeah, Vashtagan might fall off a little bit at that point. However, it would still probably be used with Iron Gut teams. Like whenever you have like a delve option and it's like, oh, hey, you need to use these colors and you need a curse option to go make sure Iron Gut can kill everything. This tends to be one of the troops that you do that with, especially if you're using something like Apothecary on the team or Mountain Crusher or the like. But overall, it's probably worth skipping every single thing you see craftable in troops for Soulforge. But if you're getting anything, Vashtagan or something you need for Kingdom upgrades is probably the target that you want to go to. Also, Gargantua are so useless, though it's not the most useless anymore. Anyways, as far as weapons, there are two main things that you'd probably want to pick up. The main one, to remind everyone, is don't forget to get Mace of Ghulvania. They're adding a new weapon pretty much every single week going forward, because we ended up getting 33 new weapons in the most recent patch, and they come around during the during the kingdom that they're related to. And these were all added in the most recent patch when we got the big 5.0. And you do want to make sure you get all of these because you will have to wait like 9 months, if not longer, like anywhere from like 6 to 9 months before they come back again. So definitely make sure to get these things. These are completely useless weapons, but if you're looking to get like every single weapon in the game, you do want to go pick these up because it is going to be very annoying if you forget to get one on a given week, because it'll be ages upon ages before it wraps back around again. Obviously, they're completely useless, but they're so cheap that might as well. Anyways, Doom Scythe, pretty expensive to get. However, it is the most valuable thing that you can get from the Soulforge this week. Of course, we just had Doomed Glaive the other week, and honestly, if you have one of the weapons like that, especially if it is specifically Doomed Glaive, you're probably fine. But it is nice to have one of every single color variant. It comes out to be only ever so slightly more expensive than a Mythic, and having all 6 color variants of it is very, very potent and very, very versatile for various Skull Spam teams. Every single one of these Doom weapons that do full AoE into Doom Skull creations are among some of the better weapons in the entire game, and Doom Scythe is no different, and even has Bone Storm. If I'm not mistaken, it is the only one of the 6 that do that spam that has Bone Storm attached, so it can get some pretty good synergies with that, with a lot of Skull Spam and a pretty hefty AoE. It's also the best of all the Scythe weapons, so it has a lot of things going for it that makes it pretty viable to go use. So definitely worth picking up if you have the resources to do so, and if not, you can still use Doomed Glaive from last week if you happen to have gotten it then, and it will still do most of the same things as a Doom Scythe in many situations, just under a different coloration and slightly different teams because of that. Anyways, the other weapon that is available is this Wall of Oblivion. It is pretty useless. You could pretty much just ignore it, and that's all the things we have as far as Soulforge stuff this week. So basically, don't forget to go get Mace of Ghulvania, and if you're actually crafting something for the sake of having it, Doom Scythe is by far the best thing craftable this week. Anyways, still a few teams to go over real quick. Obviously not as much to go over, but still a few I do want to go and mention. So, Warlore event, one variant of it, obviously the one we showed, Jar of Ice, Double Tesla, Possessed King, ends up working out pretty well. Other one, if you have a Doomed Blade, you can end up going down this route where you go Doomed Blade, Deckhand, Street Thief, and then Possessed King, where it's basically a bunch of mana accumulation into your first slot option, which will completely kill. One other thing to consider is Deckhand into Street Thief will also be able to mana generate for pretty much any option you have. So if you have some kind of, if you're lacking pretty much every single kind of damage source and you just need something cheap, put whatever your best damage source is in first slot and then just mana generate it off of Deckhand. That is pretty much your best bet. Key scenario that you'll have if you lack most of the better damage options. But the best 2 that you have for this event are Doomed Glaive as well as Tesla. If you have one of those, you should pretty much be set, especially if you have Tesla. However, if you're missing both of those, you can do the similar team just without Possessed King, obviously, since you might not have that, and just use Deckhand to Street Thief to mana generate everything you need. Deckhand creates 5 purple and then transforms all purple into blue, and Street Thief gives you those purples that you need in order to have even more on the board, so Deckhand can actually get its convert, and that will mana generate you all the blue that you need for your main damage source, and then you kill everything off of that main damage source. But highly advise using Doomed Blade or Tesla if you have, as those are by far the best 2 options that you'll be able to use for the human blue restriction that is going to be going on for it. And other than that, as I already mentioned, Bounty Hunter, and all these teams will of course be copy pastable in the description as well as always. But we got Werewolf, Tigraki Warrior, Rift Lynx, and Dread Steed. Definitely one of the harder bounty hunters as I mentioned, but definitely doable, and the double true damage combo does end up working out pretty well. Dread Steed will be completely useless going forward, but if nothing else, we do have to use it this week, and hopefully we'll get some kind of better bounty the next month when we end up getting Bounty Hunter again. Though Bounty Hunter is still starting to get pretty strong. Tigraki Warrior pretty much obviously ever since he came in has been a staple of Bounty Hunter. Honestly, I don't know what Bounty Hunter would be like if Tigraki Warrior didn't exist. He is like so mandatory in every single Bounty Hunter week, but I'm hoping that we eventually see some more like that. We ended up getting the Chris Turtle several months back that ends up being pretty good, and I'd love to see more stuff like that. Things are actually like usable outside of Bounty, or at least so good in Bounty that you'd kind of want to actually use them and not be dead content immediately. But overall, definitely one of the harder bounty weeks, and with a useless troop, like many things this week, that will never be used going forward. Pretty dull week, but hopefully next week we will have some shiny things, and of course we'll have a whole new mythic to go over, so that'll be pretty fun. Anyways, guys, if you still have any other questions, feel free to leave in the comment section below. Campaigns will be covered in a separate video, and campaigns also, unlike all the other things that are from this week, are not time limited, or what they are, but it's such a long time limit that you still have plenty of time, so you still have like 8 weeks to go finish out this week's campaign, so obviously you want to do it quicker than that, and they are most optimal to do the week of, since they have many synergies with like the War Lore event and stuff like that that make them easier to do. However, they can be done pretty much whenever, so you still got plenty of time on that. Anyways, guys, any other questions, leave them in the comment section below. Catch you guys later. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll have next week's video up much earlier. Goodbye, everyone.